Before we begin, I want to speak to you not as someone standing above you, not as a preacher, not as a teacher, but as a human being who has also felt the weight of invisible battles. This is not a performance. This is a conversation. Because Psalm 91 is not a poetic escape for people who are afraid of reality. It is a shelter for those who have already been wounded by it. There are wars that don't leave ruins on the ground, no smoke, no sirens, no headlines. Yet they drain your strength, steal your sleep, and make you question your own mind. You smile during the day, but at night your thoughts turn against you. You pray, but the pressure doesn't immediately lift. You believe in God, yet you feel targeted, surrounded, tested from directions you cannot name. That is the invisible war. Psalm 91 was not written for people who live comfortably in denial. It was written for those who know danger exists, even when no one else sees it. For those who sense that not every attack is physical, not every threat is visible, and not every battle can be fought with human strength. When God becomes your refuge, it does not mean the war stops existing. It means the war no longer owns you. This psalm does not promise a life without arrows. It promises a dwelling place where arrows lose their authority. It does not deny fear. It teaches you where fear cannot follow you. And today, as we enter this reflection together, I want you to read Psalm 91, not as ancient scripture, but as a living refuge. A place you can enter, a place you can remain. Let us begin, dwelling, not visiting, the hidden meaning of God as refuge. He who dwells in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. The first word that matters here is not protection, it is not deliverance. It is not even refuge. The first word that matters is dwells. Most people visit God when they are afraid. Psalm 91 speaks to those who stay. There is a difference between running to God during crisis and building your inner life inside Him. Dwelling is not a reaction. It is a position. It is a decision to place your inner world somewhere that fear cannot easily access. And this is why many believers feel exhausted even though they pray. They visit God, but they do not dwell. To dwell means God is not your emergency contact. He is your atmosphere. The invisible war targets the mind first. Anxiety, intrusive thoughts, sudden waves of dread, spiritual confusion, exhaustion without explanation. These are not always psychological accidents. Sometimes they are signs that your inner world has been left exposed. Psalm 91 does not begin with enemies. It begins with location. Where do you live internally? The secret place is not hidden from God. It is hidden with God. It is not secrecy. It is intimacy. It is the place where your thoughts slow down because you are no longer trying to control everything. Where your spirit stops scanning the horizon for danger because it is covered by presence. In the shadow of the Almighty is not poetic exaggeration. A shadow implies closeness. You cannot be in someone's shadow from a distance. You are so near that their movement determines your covering. This is not about being powerful, it is about being positioned. Invisible wars intensify when people try to fight them alone. When you rely on understanding, strategy, and constant vigilance, you remain exposed. The shadow of God means you are no longer the one watching everything. You are watched over. I will say of the Lord, He is my refuge and my fortress. My God, in Him I will trust. Notice the order. Refuge comes before fortress. Safety before strength. God does not first make you a warrior. He makes you sheltered. Many people want power when God offers rest, but rest is not weakness, it is alignment. A fortress is not mobile. It does not chase enemies, it stands. When God becomes your fortress, you stop reacting to every threat. You stop explaining yourself to every accusation. You stop justifying your faith to people who cannot understand it. You stand. The invisible war thrives on reaction. Panic feeds it. Overthinking feeds it, self-blame feeds it, but refuge starves it. Surely he shall deliver you from the snare of the fowler and from the perilous pestilence. A snare is not an open attack. It is a hidden trap. This is crucial. Many people fall not because of obvious evil, but because of subtle entanglements, patterns of thought, habits of fear, cycles of doubt. The fowler does not chase birds. He waits for them to step into what they did not see. Psalm 91 is not written for naive believers. It is written for those who know danger hides. Deliverance here is not dramatic rescue, it is avoidance. Protection that happens so quietly you don't even know what was meant to destroy you. Some of the worst attacks never reach you, and you will never be aware of how close they came. This is not because you were lucky, it is because you were covered. He shall cover you with his feathers, and under his wings you shall take refuge. This is not the language of battle, this is the language of care. God does not always protect you like a soldier. Sometimes he protects you like a mother. Warmth, proximity, stillness. Invisible war often manifests as inner chaos, racing thoughts, emotional instability, sudden fear with no clear cause. Under his wings the nervous system calms. The heart slows, the mind becomes quieter. This is not imagination. This is spiritual regulation. His truth shall be your shield and buckler. Truth is not information, it is stability. In an invisible war, lies feel louder than facts. You feel abandoned even when you are not. You feel unsafe even when nothing is happening. You feel condemned even when God has not spoken against you. Truth shields you not by arguing, but by grounding. When you dwell in God, his truth becomes your internal environment. You stop questioning your worth every time something goes wrong. You stop interpreting silence as rejection. You stop assuming every delay is punishment. You shall not be afraid of the terror by night. Night is when invisible wars speak the loudest, when distractions are gone, when the mind replays memories, when fears grow teeth. The psalm does not say terror does not exist. It says you will not be owned by it. Fear is a visitor. It does not get to stay, nor of the arrow that flies by day. Some attacks are sudden, some are public, some are visible. God covers both, the unseen and the obvious, the slow and the sudden. 1,000 may fall at your side, and 10,000 at your right hand, but it shall not come near you. This is not arrogance. It is separation. When God is your refuge, your life begins to operate under different spiritual rules. Not because you are better, but because you are positioned differently. Others panic. You remain steady. Others collapse. You endure. Others lose hope. You are preserved. You may still feel pain. You may still grieve. You may still struggle, but you are not overtaken. Invisible wars are not won by force. They are won by habitation. When you dwell, not visit, fear loses access. Confusion loses authority. The enemy loses entry points. Psalm 91 is not a spell. It is a map. It tells you where to live, so the war does not define you. And this is only the beginning. The fear you feel is not the proof. You are losing. Understanding. Night terrors and daytime arrows. There is a quiet misunderstanding that destroys many sincere believers, the idea that fear means failure. Psalm 91 confronts this lie directly, not by denying fear's existence, but by redefining its authority. You shall not be afraid of the terror by night, nor of the arrow that flies by day. The psalm does not say, terror will not come. It says it will not rule you. The invisible war uses fear as its primary language, not always loud fear, often subtle, a tight chest with no explanation, a sense of dread that appears without invitation, a sudden thought that says, something is wrong, even when nothing is visibly happening. These moments confuse people because they mistake sensation for truth. Night terrors are not always dreams. Sometimes they are emotional ambushes. You lie down exhausted, finally still, and suddenly your mind becomes a battlefield. Old memories resurface, regrets replay themselves, imagined futures turn dark. You pray, but your thoughts don't immediately stop, and then guilt enters. Why am I still feeling this if I trust God? Psalm 91 removes that shame. Fear is not a verdict, it is a signal. Night is when the nervous system lowers its defenses. During the day, distractions keep fear muted. At night, the soul speaks. The invisible war does not wait for daylight, it waits for quiet. This is why so many strong people fall apart in silence, not because they are weak, but because silence removes the mask. The terror by night is not always external. Sometimes it is internalized pressure that has nowhere else to go. Nor of the arrow that flies by day. Arrows are sudden. They come without warning. A word spoken that cuts deeper than expected. A message that destabilizes you. News that shifts your sense of safety. An accusation. A betrayal. These are not slow-burning fears. They strike. The psalm names both because the invisible war is not consistent. Some attacks creep, others collide. The mistake many make is trying to eliminate fear instead of relocating themselves. Psalm 91 does not promise emotional numbness. It promises containment. Fear may knock, but it does not enter. Anxiety may whisper, but it does not command. Doubt may appear, but it does not define reality. There shall no evil befall you, nor shall any plague come near your dwelling. This is not denial of hardship. It is limitation of access. Evil may exist around you. It does not get to settle in you. The invisible war intensifies when people internalize what was meant to pass through. When you replay the arrow over and over, it lodges. When you rehearse the terror, it multiplies. God's refuge is not about pretending arrows never fly. It is about refusing to let them build nests in your mind, for he shall give his angels charge over you to keep you in all your ways. Angels are not described here as warriors attacking enemies. They are guardians of direction, all your ways. This matters. Protection is not only about moments of crisis, it is about daily movement, decisions, timing, delays, detours. Sometimes protection looks like interruption, a plan that collapses, a door that closes without explanation, a relationship that fades. In the invisible war, not everything that feels like loss is attack. Some losses are shields. The angels are not assigned to your comfort, they are assigned to your path. In their hands they shall bear you up, lest you dash your foot against a stone. Stones are small, not mountains. Stones are overlooked dangers, habits that seem harmless, thoughts that repeat so often they feel normal, emotional reactions that become reflexes. You do not fall because of massive obstacles. You stumble because of small, familiar ones. Being born up does not mean you never trip. It means you are not crushed by what could have ended you. Fear often comes from the belief that one misstep will destroy everything. Psalm 91 dismantles that fear. You are carried, even when your footing slips. The invisible war feeds on the illusion of fragility, that you are one moment away from collapse. God counters this by revealing unseen support. You are not as exposed as you feel. You shall tread upon the lion and the cobra, the young lion and the serpent you shall trample underfoot. These are symbols of threat, not always physical. The lion represents overt danger. The serpent represents deception. Some battles roar, others whisper. God addresses both. To tread upon does not mean to attack aggressively. It means to walk without fear, to move forward without paralysis. Many people are not destroyed by enemies. They are immobilized by anticipation. When fear dictates your movement, the invisible war wins ground without firing a shot. Psalm 91 restores motion. Because he has set his love upon me, therefore I will deliver him. Love is the condition, not perfection, not strength, not flawless faith. Love, attachment, orientation of the heart. Setting your love on God does not mean you never doubt. It means when doubt comes, it does not replace your anchor. I will set him on high because he has known my name. To know God's name is not to recite it. It is to recognize his nature, protector, provider, presence, refuge. When you know who God is, circumstances lose their ability to redefine him. He shall call upon me, and I will answer him. This is not transactional, not a formula. It is relational. Call, not perform. Speak, not impress. I will be with him in trouble. This is the line many skip. God does not promise distance from trouble. He promises presence within it. The invisible war loses its power when you stop interpreting trouble as abandonment. I will deliver him and honor him. Deliverance does not always look like escape. Sometimes it looks like endurance with dignity intact. Honor is what remains when suffering does not hollow you out. With long life I will satisfy him and show him my salvation. Salvation is not only rescue from death, it is rescue from despair, from losing yourself, from becoming hardened, from being consumed by fear. Psalm 91 does not make you fearless, it makes fear smaller. You still feel, you still process, you still struggle, but the war no longer lives inside you. The enemy you cannot see. Why the most dangerous battles are fought in silence. There is a reason Psalm 91 speaks so much about what is unseen. Not everything that threatens you announces itself. Not every enemy wears a face. Not every attack feels violent. Some of the most damaging forces arrive quietly, patiently, almost politely. And because they do not look like danger, they are often welcomed. The invisible war is rarely loud. If it were, most people would resist it immediately. Instead, it disguises itself as normal thought, reasonable fear, logical concern. It whispers instead of shouting. It waits instead of rushing. And this is why so many people who appear strong on the outside are collapsing internally without understanding why. You shall tread upon the lion and the cobra. The lion and the cobra are not just animals. They are symbols of two types of threat. The lion represents what is obvious: intimidation, pressure, open opposition. The cobra represents what is subtle: deception, distortion, poison delivered slowly. One attacks openly, the other waits for proximity. Most people prepare for lions. Few are trained to recognize serpents. The invisible enemy rarely tells you lies that are obviously false. It tells you things that are almost true. Thoughts like, "You should be further along by now. Other people don't struggle like this. God is silent because you failed. If you relax, everything will fall apart." These thoughts feel reasonable. They feel responsible. They feel mature. And that is what makes them dangerous. Psalm 91 does not teach you how to fight these thoughts aggressively. It teaches you how to stand somewhere they lose influence. The serpent does not need to overpower you. It only needs access. A small opening, a repeated thought, a familiar fear. This is why the psalm emphasizes dwelling. When you dwell in God, you are not constantly negotiating with every thought that passes through your mind. You are anchored. Thoughts come, but they do not stay. The invisible war escalates when people believe every thought they have is theirs. Not every thought originates from you. Some thoughts are suggestions, some are intrusions, some are distortions amplified by exhaustion. Psalm 91 does not ask you to analyze every mental movement. It places you in a refuge where discernment happens naturally, where truth becomes familiar and falsehood feels foreign. You shall not be afraid. This does not mean fear disappears. It means fear loses its authority to command your decisions. The invisible enemy wants control, not chaos. Chaos draws attention. Control works quietly. When fear dictates your choices, your pace, your rest, your relationships, the enemy does not need to attack anymore. You are already restricted. Psalm 91 restores internal freedom. 1,000 may fall at your side. This line is deeply misunderstood. It is not a promise that others will fail so you can feel superior. It is a recognition that many people are fighting battles they cannot see and losing without understanding why. They burn out, they lose hope, they grow cynical, they harden, they disconnect. And watching this happen creates its own fear. What if I'm next? The psalm answers that fear, not with comparison but with positioning. It shall not come near you, not because you are stronger, but because you are sheltered differently. Invisible wars are not won by awareness alone, they are won by habitation. When God becomes your refuge, you stop living in constant alert mode. You stop scanning for threats in every interaction. You stop assuming danger behind every delay. This does not make you naive, it makes you regulated. And 10,000 at your right hand. The right hand represents strength, action, productivity, even when systems collapse, even when structures fail, even when environments become hostile. You are preserved internally. Your core remains intact. The invisible enemy wants to erode your sense of self, to make you doubt your calling, to disconnect you from purpose, to convince you that survival is the same as living. Psalm 91 pushes back against this erosion, not by promising ease, but by promising continuity. You remain you. Only with your eyes shall you look and see the reward of the wicked. This is not about revenge. It is about clarity. Eventually, deception reveals its cost. The paths built on fear collapse. The lives driven by manipulation hollow out. The systems rooted in lies decay. You do not need to participate in their downfall. You only need to stay out of their way. The invisible war tempts people to respond in kind, to manipulate back, to harden back, to lie back. Psalm 91 calls you to restraint, to trust that truth has endurance. Because you have made the Lord, who is my refuge, even the Most High, your dwelling place. Again, dwelling, not visiting, not consulting, not escaping to occasionally, dwelling. The invisible enemy thrives on instability, on people who are spiritually homeless, who pray but do not abide, who believe but do not rest, who trust God but only after exhausting themselves. Dwelling changes your posture. You stop bracing for impact. You stop expecting the worst. You stop living as if peace is temporary. Peace becomes your baseline. Even when circumstances fluctuate, no evil shall befall you, nor shall any plague come near your dwelling. This does not mean you will never experience loss. It means loss does not define you. It does not infect your identity. It does not turn into bitterness. It does not rewrite your story. Invisible attacks aim to change who you become, not just what you experience. When God is your refuge, experiences pass through you without reshaping your core, for He shall give His angels charge over you. Again, protection without spectacle, guidance without noise, intervention without announcement. Some of the most significant protections in your life happened without your awareness. You did not meet someone you almost met. You did not go somewhere you almost went. You did not say something you almost said. These moments feel insignificant until you realize how much damage was avoided. The invisible war is often neutralized quietly. In all your ways. This phrase removes the idea that God only protects you in spiritual moments. He guards your ordinary decisions, your timing, your delays, your pauses, your rest, your movement. Sometimes the most spiritual act in an invisible war is stopping striving, stopping proving, stopping over-explaining, stopping chasing clarity at the expense of peace. Psalm 91 gives you permission to rest without guilt. Because rest is not surrender to the enemy, it is trust in God. And when you trust, the war loses leverage. What remains is not a life without conflict, but a life where conflict no longer has the final word. Protected, even when you feel nothing. Why God's refuge often works in silence. One of the most unsettling parts of the invisible war is not pain. It is numbness. It is the season when you pray and feel nothing, read scripture and feel nothing, worship and feel nothing. You are not falling apart, but you are not burning either. You are steady on the outside, quiet on the inside, and secretly wondering if God has stepped back. Psalm 91 speaks directly into this space, even though it never uses emotional language. And that is intentional, because God's refuge is not dependent on what you feel. It operates whether you sense it or not. Most people associate protection with sensation. They expect peace to feel warm, safety to feel reassuring, God's presence to feel tangible. When those sensations fade, fear begins to ask questions. Am I still covered? Did I do something wrong? Did I lose favor? The invisible war loves these questions because they turn inward. They make you monitor yourself instead of trusting God. They make you search for emotional proof instead of resting in truth. Psalm 91 removes emotion from the center of protection. He shall cover you with his feathers. Covering is not something you feel all the time. If you are covered long enough, it becomes normal. The absence of sensation does not mean the absence of shelter. It often means you have been there so long that danger no longer reaches you. Think of it this way. The safest rooms are often the quietest. No alarms, no flashing lights, no constant reminders, just stability. God's refuge is like that. It does not shout its effectiveness. It simply works. In his truth you shall trust. Truth here is not an argument against fear. It is an anchor beneath it. When feelings fluctuate, truth remains. When emotions numb, truth still holds. When you feel disconnected, truth does not disconnect. The invisible war tries to convince you that feelings are facts. Psalm 91 gently corrects that assumption. Feelings are weather, truth is ground. You shall not be afraid. Again, not because fear never shows up, but because fear no longer decides meaning. You may feel flat, tired, uninspired, but that does not mean you are unprotected. In fact, many people are most protected in seasons where God removes emotional dependence and teaches trust without sensation. Silence is not absence. Silence is often containment. For he shall give his angels charge over you. Notice what is missing. You do not see them, you do not hear them, you are not aware of their movement. Protection happens beyond perception. This is deeply important because many people panic when they cannot feel God working. But Psalm 91 never says you will perceive protection. It says protection exists. Invisible war logic says, if I can't feel God, I must be exposed. Psalm 91 logic says, even when you feel nothing, you are not alone. To keep you in all your ways. Protection is continuous, not episodic. Not emotional highs followed by abandonment. Not presence during prayer and absence during daily life. All your ways includes routine, boredom, repetition, exhaustion. God does not leave when life becomes ordinary. In their hands they shall bear you up. You are carried even when you are not conscious of it. This dismantles the fear of collapse. You are not holding everything together by awareness or effort. You are supported underneath. This is where many invisible wars lose momentum, when you stop believing that constant vigilance is required to survive, when you stop scanning your emotions for confirmation that God is near. Protection is not maintained by attention. It is maintained by position. You shall tread upon the lion and the serpent. This does not mean you feel brave. It means fear does not immobilize you. You still move forward. You still choose. You still live, even quietly, even without enthusiasm, even without clarity. The invisible war wants to equate lack of feeling with lack of faith. Psalm 91 rejects that equation. Faith is not intensity. Faith is orientation. Because he has set his love upon me. Love is not measured by emotional fireworks. Love is measured by direction. Even when you feel dry, your heart remains turned toward God. That is love. Even when you feel distant, you still choose him. That is love. And because of that, God says, therefore I will deliver him. Deliverance here is not dramatic escape. It is preservation. You are not lost. You are not drifting beyond reach. You are not slipping unnoticed. I will be with him in trouble. God does not say, I will remove trouble immediately. He says, I will be with you inside it. Presence does not always feel like comfort. Sometimes it feels like endurance. Some seasons are not meant to be felt. They are meant to be survived without damage. And honor him. Honor here is internal. You do not lose yourself. You do not become smaller. You do not become bitter. You do not become hollow. You come through intact. The invisible war often aims to hollow people out emotionally, to leave them functional but empty. God's refuge preserves depth even in silence. With long life I will satisfy him. Satisfaction is not constant happiness. It is wholeness over time. You look back and realize you were held together during moments that could have shattered you, and show him my salvation. Salvation is not always rescue from danger. Sometimes it is rescue from despair, from self-blame, from thinking you were abandoned when you were actually being guarded. Psalm 91 teaches this quietly. God does not need you to feel him to keep you. He does not need your emotional confirmation to remain faithful. His refuge does not flicker with your sensations. It stands. And finally, we come to the deepest truth of this psalm, the reason it endures through centuries, wars, plagues, and personal suffering. Why choosing God as refuge is not escape from reality, but the only way to survive it without losing your soul. Refuge is not escape. How Psalm 91 teaches you to survive reality without losing your soul. There is a final misunderstanding that Psalm 91 dismantles, and it may be the most important one of all. The idea that making God your refuge means avoiding reality. Many people quietly believe that faith is a way to soften life, to blur its sharp edges, to escape the weight of existence. But Psalm 91 does something far more demanding and far more honest. It does not remove you from reality. It teaches you how to remain fully present in it without being destroyed by it. Refuge is not denial. Refuge is integration. When God becomes your refuge, you do not float above suffering. You walk through it differently. You do not become unaware of danger. You become ungoverned by it. This is why Psalm 91 has survived centuries of war, exile, disease, persecution, and personal loss. It does not promise a protected environment. It promises a protected interior. He who dwells in the secret place of the Most High. This opening line now reveals its deepest meaning. The secret place is not a hiding place from life. It is a place where life cannot hollow you out. You still grieve. You still struggle. You still encounter injustice, uncertainty, loss, and pain. But these experiences do not redefine you. The invisible war is not primarily about circumstances. It is about erosion, slowly wearing down hope, slowly dulling sensitivity, slowly convincing you that becoming hardened is the same as becoming strong. Psalm 91 refuses that lie. When God is your refuge, strength does not come from armor, it comes from grounding. You are not constantly braced for impact, you are rooted. This is why the psalm uses images of dwelling, shadow, wings, and habitation rather than weapons. God is not teaching you how to fight everything. He is teaching you how to remain whole while everything happens. 1,000 may fall at your side, and 10,000 at your right hand. This line is not triumphant. It is sobering. It acknowledges reality. People will fall. Systems will fail. Lives will unravel. Faith will be shaken. Not everyone will make it through unchanged, and seeing this can be terrifying. Survivor's guilt, existential fear, the question that rises unspoken, why them and not me? Psalm 91 does not answer that question philosophically. It answers it relationally. Because you dwell, because you are anchored, because you are not carrying the weight of existence alone. Refuge does not make you invincible. It makes you accompanied. And it shall not come near you. This does not mean pain never touches you. It means destruction does not claim you. Loss does not own you. Suffering does not rewrite your identity. You may be wounded, but you are not erased. The invisible war wants to reduce people to what happened to them. Psalm 91 preserves who you are beneath what you endure. You will only observe with your eyes and see the recompense of the wicked. This is not about watching others be punished. It is about understanding consequences without being consumed by them. You see what fear-based living produces. You see what manipulation leads to. You see what bitterness builds, and instead of being tempted by those paths, you step away. Refuge creates clarity. When God is your refuge, you stop confusing survival tactics with wisdom. You stop mistaking numbness for peace. You stop calling emotional shutdown maturity. You remain soft without being fragile, open without being naive. No evil shall befall you, nor shall any plague come near your dwelling. Again, dwelling, not the external house, the internal home, your inner life, your conscience, your capacity to love, your ability to hope. Evil may pass through your life, but it does not colonize your soul. This is the quiet miracle of Psalm 91, for he shall give his angels charge over you. Protection here is not flashy, it is preventative. The invisible war often ends not with dramatic rescue, but with paths you never walked, versions of yourself you never became, choices you were quietly redirected away from. God's refuge often shows itself in hindsight. In all your ways, not just in prayer, not just in crisis, in relationships, in rest, in work, in silence, in waiting, in disappointment, in joy, in ordinary days when nothing feels spiritual at all. God does not step out of your life when it becomes mundane. He shall call upon me and I will answer him. This is the heart of it all. Call, not impress, not perform, not explain. Call from exhaustion, from confusion, from grief, from doubt, from silence. I will be with him in trouble, not after trouble, in it. This is where refuge becomes reality. God does not stand at the finish line cheering. He walks beside you while you are still unsure you will finish at all. I will deliver him and honor him. Honor is what remains when suffering does not degrade you, when you do not become cruel, when you do not lose your capacity for compassion, when you do not abandon yourself. With long life, I will satisfy him. Satisfaction here is not pleasure, it is coherence. You look back and realize your life was not fragmented by fear. You were not consumed by the invisible war. You lived fully, honestly, without surrendering your soul. And show him my salvation. Salvation is not only rescue from death, it is rescue from becoming someone you were never meant to be. Psalm 91 is not about hiding from the world. It is about living in it without being owned by it. It teaches you that refuge is not escape. Refuge is the only way to remain human in a world that constantly pressures you to harden, to numb, to fear, to shrink. When God becomes your refuge, the invisible war does not disappear, but it loses its power to define you. You are still here, still breathing, still becoming, still whole, and that is the victory Psalm 91 has been quietly offering all along.